The night air at Windsor Castle was cold and still. Nothing moved in the shadows. The ancient stone walls stood silent under a moonless sky. It was 2:47 in the morning. Guard Samuel Harris walked his patrol route for the third time that night. His boots echoed softly on the cobblestone path. He had done this walk 1,000 times before. Every corner was familiar. Every shadow was expected, but tonight, something felt different. Samuel stopped near the east tower. He couldn't explain why. Just a feeling in his chest. A whisper in his gut that something was wrong. He scanned the darkness. Everything looked normal. The gates were locked. The cameras blinked their red lights. The walls stood tall and unbroken. He was about to continue walking when he heard it. A sound so faint he almost missed it. A scraping noise. Metal against stone. It came from somewhere below ground level. Samuel froze. His hand moved to his radio, but he didn't call it in yet. Not until he knew what he was dealing with. False alarms made him look foolish. He had been a royal guard for 12 years. He knew better than to panic over nothing. He moved toward the sound, slowly, carefully, his eyes adjusting to the darkness. The scraping came again. Louder this time. It was coming from the old garden area near the north wing, a section of the castle most tourists never saw. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button. You won't believe what happens next. Samuel reached the garden wall. His flashlight beam cut through the darkness. The beam landed on something that made his blood run cold. A small iron grate that covered a drainage entrance. It was supposed to be locked. Welded shut years ago for security reasons, but it wasn't locked now. It was open. Swinging slightly in the breeze, Samuel's heart hammered in his chest. This wasn't possible. That grate hadn't been opened in decades. It was part of an old tunnel system that ran beneath Windsor. Tunnels that had been sealed off and forgotten. Tunnels that weren't even on the modern security maps. He grabbed his radio. His hand was shaking. But before he could speak, he heard something else. Footsteps. Not from above ground. From below? From inside the tunnel? Someone was down there. Someone was inside Windsor's walls. Samuel's training took over. He pressed the emergency button on his radio. Silent alarm. No sound. But every guard in the castle would know something was wrong. Backup would come. He just had to wait. But waiting meant someone could escape. Or worse, someone could reach the residential areas. The king was in the castle tonight. Sleeping just 300 yards away, Samuel made a decision. He couldn't wait. He aimed his flashlight down into the darkness. The beam revealed stone steps leading down. Wet walls covered in moss. The smell of damp earth and decay rose up to meet him. He took his first step down into the tunnel, then another. The darkness swallowed him whole. His flashlight was the only source of light. Every shadow seemed alive. Every sound was amplified. Then he saw it, a light ahead, moving. Someone was definitely down here. Someone who shouldn't be. Samuel's radio crackled softly. A voice whispered through. "Harris, what's your location?" But Samuel couldn't answer. Because at that moment, the light ahead stopped moving. And then it turned toward him. Samuel stood perfectly still. The light ahead of him didn't move. Whoever was holding it was watching him now, waiting. The tunnel felt smaller suddenly. The walls seemed to press in from both sides. "This is Royal Guard, Harris," Samuel said loudly. His voice echoed off the stone. "Identify yourself immediately." No answer. Just silence. In that unmoving light, Samuel's hand went to his belt. Standard protocol. He wasn't armed with a firearm. Royal Guards at Windsor rarely carried guns inside the residential zones. But he had his baton. And he had his training. "I'm giving you one more chance," Samuel called out. "Identify yourself, or I will consider you a hostile threat." The light suddenly went out. Complete darkness. Samuel's flashlight was the only thing breaking the black. He swung it left and right. Nothing. Whoever was down here had vanished into the shadows. Then he heard running. Footsteps splashing through water, moving away from him, Going deeper into the tunnel system, Samuel ran. His boots pounded against the wet stone. Water splashed up around his ankles. The tunnel curved sharply to the left, then right. He had no idea where he was anymore. No map, no direction, just the sound of those footsteps ahead. His radio crackled again. "Harris, hold your position. Backup is coming. Do not pursue alone." But it was too late. Samuel was already deep in the tunnels, and stopping now meant losing whoever this was. Meant letting them disappear into the maze beneath Windsor. Meant a security breach that could end his career. Or worse, the tunnel opened into a wider chamber. Samuel's flashlight swept across the space. Old barrels stacked in corners. Wooden crates covered in dust. This was some kind of storage room. From another era. Another century, and there pressed against the far wall was a figure. A man, young, maybe 30 years old. Dark clothes. Wet from the knees down, his face pale and frightened in the flashlight beam. "Don't move," Samuel ordered. He reached for his radio to call it in, but the man spoke first. "Please," he said. His voice was shaking. "Please, you have to listen to me." Samuel kept his distance. "Get on the ground. Hands behind your head." "I'm not here to hurt anyone," the man said quickly. "I swear. I'm trying to stop something terrible. On the ground." Now, the man didn't move. His eyes were wide, desperate. "My name is David Morse. I used to work here. Maintenance staff. 5 years ago. I was fired. But that's not why I'm here." Samuel took a step forward. "Last warning. It's a bomb," David blurted out. "In the castle. Planted 2 days ago. I didn't know about it until tonight. My brother. He's involved with dangerous people. He told me what they did. I came through the old tunnels because I knew they'd never let me through the front gates. You have to believe me." Samuel felt ice in his veins. A bomb? It could be true. Or it could be a lie. A distraction. This man could be the threat himself. "If there's a bomb, you tell me where it is. Right now." David's face crumpled. "I don't know exactly. My brother wouldn't say. He just said it's somewhere in the north wing, near the king's private quarters. He was drunk when he told me, bragging. I think he realized he said too much because he tried to take it back. But I heard enough." Samuel's mind raced. The north wing. That's where the residential areas were. Where the king slept. If this was true, they had minutes. Maybe less. "Who's your brother?" Samuel demanded. "Marcus Morse. He works for a private security company. He has access to the castle grounds. He was here 2 days ago for a maintenance inspection." Samuel grabbed his radio. "This is Harris. I need bomb detection units to the north wing immediately. Possible explosive device. I repeat, possible explosive device in the north wing." The response was instant. Chaos on the radio. Multiple voices. Orders being shouted. The castle was about to wake up in the worst way possible. David slumped against the wall. Relief and fear mixed on his face. "Thank God. I thought you wouldn't believe me." But Samuel wasn't relaxed. Not yet. "If you're lying to me, if this is some kind of trick, it's not," David interrupted. "I swear on my life. My brother is sick. Angry at the world. I should have seen it coming. I should have stopped him sooner." Samuel heard footsteps above. His backup was arriving. But something still bothered him. Something David said. "How did you know about this tunnel entrance?" Samuel asked. "It's been sealed for years." David looked at the ground. "My brother showed it to me. When we were kids, our father worked here too. He knew about the old passages." Marcus never forgot. That's when Samuel understood. This wasn't just about one man sneaking in. This was planned carefully by someone who knew Windsor's secrets. Someone who knew exactly how to get in unseen. Someone who might still be inside. Asterisk 3 guards burst into the chamber. Flashlights blazing, weapons drawn. They surrounded David Morse in seconds. Hands grabbed him, pushed him to the ground, cuffed his wrists behind his back. Samuel stepped back. Let them handle it. His mind was already racing ahead. If David was telling the truth, they had a bigger problem. Marcus Morse was still out there, and he had a 2-day head start. Take him up, Samuel ordered. I need to speak with Commander Price immediately. The guards dragged David toward the exit. He didn't resist. Just kept repeating the same thing over and over. Check the north wing, please. Check the north wing. Samuel climbed back up through the tunnel. His legs felt heavy. When he reached the surface, Windsor Castle was alive with activity. Lights blazing in every window. Guards running across the courtyards. Dogs barking somewhere in the distance. Commander Margaret Price met him at the garden wall. She was 52 years old. A veteran of the Royal Protection Service, her face was stone, but Samuel could see the fear in her eyes. Tell me everything, she said. Samuel explained it all. The open grate. The man in the tunnel. The brother who worked security. The claim about a bomb. He left nothing out. Price listened without interrupting. When he finished, she pulled out her phone. Made 3 calls in rapid succession. Each one short and sharp. Orders being given. Teams being mobilized. The king is being moved to the secure location, she said. Bomb squad is sweeping the north wing now. Every inch. We've locked down the entire castle. No one in. No one out. What about Marcus Morse? Samuel asked. We're running his details now. Security company he works for. His home address. Known associates. If he's involved in this, we'll find him. But Samuel shook his head. He's too smart for that. He planned this. Knew about the tunnels. Had access to the castle. He's thought every step through. Price's jaw tightened. Then we think smarter. Where's the brother now? Interrogation room. But Commander, he seemed genuine, scared. I think he's telling the truth. Your gut feeling doesn't clear him, Price said coldly. He broke into a royal residence. Through a tunnel that's been sealed for decades. That's not normal behavior. Even for a hero. She was right. Samuel knew she was right. But something about David's face stuck with him. That look of pure desperation. That wasn't an act. He'd seen enough liars to know the difference. An alarm suddenly blared across the castle grounds. Not the fire alarm. The security breach alarm. The one that meant something had been found. Samuel and Price ran toward the north wing. Other guards joined them. A small army converging on one location. They reached the main entrance just as a bomb technician emerged. His face was pale, covered in sweat. We found it, he said quietly. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Where? Price demanded. Ventilation shaft. 3rd floor. Behind a service panel. It's sophisticated. Timer set for 6 a.m. That's 3 hours from now. Samuel felt his stomach drop. 3 hours. That's when the king would normally be having breakfast. When staff would be moving through the halls. When the castle would be full of life. Can you disarm it? Price asked. The technician hesitated. We're trying. But there's a problem. It's got a tamper trigger. If we don't do this perfectly, it goes off immediately. We need more time to analyze it. How much time? An hour. Maybe 2. Price turned to Samuel. Get that brother talking now. I need to know everything about Marcus Morse. His training. His skill level. How he thinks. We need an edge. Samuel was already moving. He ran across the courtyard. Through the main building, down to the basement level where the interrogation rooms were located. 2 guards stood outside the door. They stepped aside when they saw him coming. David Morse sat at a metal table, still handcuffed. His head was down. When Samuel entered, David looked up. Hope flickered in his eyes. Did you find it? He asked immediately. Samuel pulled out a chair, sat across from him. Yes, we found it. Now I need you to tell me everything about your brother. And I mean everything. David nodded quickly. Marcus was military. Royal Engineers. Explosives expert. He served 8 years before he left. He never talked about why he quit. Just said he was done taking orders. What company does he work for now? Sentinel Security Solutions. They do contract work for government buildings, museums, high-value targets. Marcus was one of their best technicians. Samuel leaned forward. Did he ever talk about Windsor specifically? About the security here. David's expression changed, became darker. All the time. He was obsessed. After our father died, something broke in Marcus. Dad worked here for 30 years. Loved this place. But when he got sick, the castle didn't help with medical bills. Didn't do enough. At least, that's how Marcus saw it. He blamed them. Blamed the royal family, so this is revenge? I think so. But it's more than that. Marcus started talking about messages. About making people see. About showing that nowhere is safe. Not even here. Samuel's blood ran cold. This wasn't just about one bomb. This was about proving a point. About humiliation. About fear. David, Samuel said carefully, if you were Marcus and you wanted to make sure that bomb went off no matter what would you do? David thought for a moment. Then his face went white. You'd plant a second one, he whispered. A backup. Hidden somewhere else. And in that moment, Samuel knew they were running out of time. Samuel grabbed his radio. His hands were shaking. Commander Price, we have a problem. There might be a second device. Static. Then Price's voice came through. Sharp and controlled. Based on what information? The brother. Marcus Morse is ex-military. Explosives expert. This is his specialty. He'd plan for us finding the first bomb. He'd have insurance. Oh, Price swore under her breath. Every available unit is already searching the north wing. We don't have the resources to sweep the entire castle. Samuel looked at David across the table. Where would he put it? If you had to guess. David closed his eyes, thinking, remembering. Marcus always said the best hiding place is where people look but don't see. Somewhere obvious. Somewhere people walk past every day without thinking. That's the entire castle, Samuel said in frustration. No, wait. David's eyes snapped open. The chapel. St. George's Chapel. It's open to tourists during the day. Hundreds of people walk through it. But at night, it's empty, forgotten. And Marcus helped install new lighting systems there 6 months ago. He had access. He knew every corner. Samuel was already on his feet. Running for the door, he barked into his radio. All units. St. George's Chapel. Possible second device. Move now. He didn't wait for backup. Couldn't wait. If David was right, they were already behind. Samuel burst out of the building. Sprinted across the castle grounds. The chapel was on the other side. 300 yards away, his lungs burned. His legs pumped. Guards shouted behind him, but he didn't stop. The chapel came into view. Ancient stone. Beautiful even in the darkness. A place of peace. About to become a place of death. Samuel hit the chapel doors. Unlocked, he went inside. His flashlight swept across the interior. Rows of wooden pews. Stone pillars reaching to the ceiling. Stained glass windows that would shine brilliant colors in daylight, now just dark shapes. Where are you? Samuel muttered. Where would you hide it? He moved down the center aisle, checking under pews, behind pillars, his flashlight catching on every shadow, every corner. The chapel was huge. This could take hours. Hours they didn't have. Then he remembered what David said. Where people look but don't see. Samuel's eyes went to the altar. The most obvious place in the room. The place everyone looked at during services. The place covered in flowers and candles and religious items. The place no one would think to search because it was too exposed. He approached slowly, his heart hammering. The altar was made of carved stone, covered with a white cloth, golden candlesticks on either side, a large flower arrangement in the center. Samuel moved the flowers aside, Nothing. He checked behind the candlesticks. Nothing. He was wrong. Had to be wrong. But then he saw it. A small panel at the base of the altar. Meant to look decorative. Meant to blend in. But it was loose. Just slightly. Samuel wouldn't have noticed if he wasn't looking for it. He pulled the panel away, and there it was. A device. Smaller than the one in the north wing, but just as deadly. Wires. Circuit board. Timer counting down. 2:17:332, 17:322, 17:31.
Oh.
Samuel's radio crackled. Harris, what's your status? I found it, Samuel said. His voice barely steady. Second device confirmed. St. George's Chapel. I need the bomb squad here immediately. You're on their way! Do not touch it. Do not attempt to disarm. Evacuate and secure the perimeter. But Samuel didn't move. He stared at the device, at the wires. At the timer ticking down, 2 hours and 17 minutes until both devices would detonate simultaneously. One in the north wing, one here in the chapel. Footsteps behind him. Samuel turned. Commander Price entered the chapel. Her face grim. Good work, Harris, she said. Now, step back. Let the experts handle this. What about the first device? Samuel asked. Still working on it. It's complicated. The tamper trigger is sensitive. One wrong move, and it's over. Can we disarm both in time? Price didn't answer. That was answer enough. The bomb squad arrived. 3 technicians. They immediately surrounded the device, talking in low voices. Using equipment Samuel didn't understand. One of them looked up at Price, shook his head slightly. What? Samuel demanded. What does that mean? Asterisk Price pulled him aside. Away from the altar. Away from the technicians. Her voice dropped to a whisper. They're linked, she said. The devices, wirelessly connected. If one is disarmed, the other detonates immediately. If one goes off, they both go off. They have to be disarmed simultaneously. Exactly. Down to the microsecond. Samuel felt the room spin. Can that be done? They don't know. They've never seen this configuration before. Marcus Morse designed this specifically to be nearly impossible to stop. Nearly impossible isn't impossible. No, Price agreed. But it might as well be. We have 2 teams. One in the north wing. They need to cut the right wires at exactly the same moment. No room for error. No second chances. Samuel looked back at the altar, at the bomb counting down, at the technicians working with steady hands and worried eyes. What about Marcus? Samuel asked. Have we found him? Price's expression darkened. No, he's disappeared. Completely. It's like he planned for that too. Of course he did. Marcus Morse had planned everything. Every detail, every possibility. He wanted this to work, wanted it to succeed. Even if they found the bombs, even if they evacuated the castle, the message would be sent. Security had failed. The royal family wasn't safe. Fear would win, lest Samuel could stop it. I need to talk to David again, Samuel said suddenly. Why? Because he knows his brother better than anyone. There has to be something, some detail, some weakness. Marcus might be brilliant, but he's human. Humans make mistakes. Price checked her watch. You have 90 minutes. After that, we evacuate what we can and hope for the best. Samuel ran. Back across the grounds, back to the interrogation room. David looked up when he entered, saw Samuel's face. Understood immediately. You found the second one, David said quietly. Yes, and they're linked. Can't disarm one without the other going off. Your brother really thought this through. David stood up. Despite the handcuffs, despite everything. Let me help, please. I know I broke the law coming here. I know you don't trust me, but I can help. I know how Marcus thinks. Samuel made a decision that could end his career, or save hundreds of lives. Tell me everything, he said, and I mean everything, starting with how Marcus makes mistakes. David sat back down, his eyes distant, remembering Marcus is smart, too smart sometimes. But he has a pattern. When he was in the military, he'd always build in a failsafe. A way out, not for the target, for himself. What do you mean? Samuel asked. He never fully trusted technology, said it could betray you. So he'd always have a manual override, something physical, something he could control if everything else failed. Samuel felt a spark of hope. Like what? A kill switch. Hidden somewhere only he would know. Something he could activate remotely if things went wrong, or if he changed his mind. Would he change his mind? David's face showed pain. I don't know. The Marcus I grew up with would never do this. But the Marcus of the last 2 years, I don't know him anymore. Grief changed him, made him angry, made him someone I don't recognize. Samuel grabbed his radio. Commander Price. The brother says there might be a manual override. A kill switch Marcus could use to shut down both devices. Price's voice came back immediately. Where would it be? Samuel looked at David. Where? David shook his head. I don't know the exact location, but I know how he thinks. It would be somewhere he feels connected to. Somewhere that meant something to our family. Somewhere he could watch from. The tunnel, Samuel said suddenly. He'd want to be able to escape if needed, but also watch, make sure his plan worked. There has to be a vantage point. David's eyes lit up. The old observatory post? In the tunnel system. Right. Our father showed it to us when we were kids. It's a small room with a ventilation shaft that looks out over the main courtyard. You can see the north wing and the chapel from there. Samuel was already moving. I need the building schematics now. 5 minutes later, Samuel was back in the tunnel, this time with 4 other guards. And David. Price had authorized it. They didn't have time to debate. David was uncuffed, given a flashlight, and trusted because they had no other choice. This way, David said. Leading them deeper into the darkness, the tunnel branched off in multiple directions, left, right, straight. A maze beneath Windsor. David moved with confidence, following a path from childhood memories. Samuel stayed close behind, weapon drawn, just in case. They reached a narrow passage. It's barely wide enough for one person. David squeezed through. Samuel followed. The other guards waited behind. Too many bodies would slow them down. The passage opened into a small room, just as David described. Stone walls. A single wooden chair covered in dust. And there, in the far corner, a metal ladder leading up to a ventilation shaft. Samuel climbed the ladder, looked through the shaft. He could see the courtyard. The north wing lit up like daylight. The chapel in the distance? This was it. This was Marcus's watching post. Look for anything unusual, Samuel ordered. Anything that doesn't belong. They searched the room. Overturned the chair, checked the walls, ran their hands along the stones. Nothing. The room was empty except for decades of dust and spider webs. Samuel's watch showed 123 remaining. 1 hour and 23 minutes. His chest tightened. They were running out of time. It has to be here, David insisted. This is the place. I know it. Samuel looked up at the ventilation shaft again. Something caught his eye. Reflection. Small, metallic. He climbed back up the ladder, reached into the shaft. His fingers touched something smooth, rectangular. He pulled it out. A metal box, about the size of a book, secured to the shaft wall with magnets. Samuel brought it down, placed it on the ground. Everyone gathered around. The box had a simple combination lock. 3 numbers. Any ideas? Samuel asked David. David stared at the lock. Our father's birthday. Marcus always used dates that meant something. Try 0812. August 12th. Samuel entered the numbers. The lock clicked open. Inside the box was a device, not a bomb, controller, with a single red button. And beneath it, handwritten on a piece of paper, were words that made Samuel's blood freeze. For when I remember who I really am, for when I remember what Dad would think of me. Left himself a way out, David whispered. He does want to stop it. Part of him does. Samuel grabbed his radio. Commander Price, we found something. Remote kill switch. Instructions say it deactivates both devices simultaneously. Don't touch it. Price's voice was sharp. It could be a trap. Could trigger them instead. Samuel looked at David. Would your brother do that? Lie in his own note? David's hands were shaking. I don't think so, but I can't be sure. I haven't been sure about Marcus for a long time. Samuel looked at the controller, at the red button, at the timer on his watch. 1:19 remaining. The bomb technicians were still working, still trying to disarm both devices the hard way. But Price said it might be impossible. Said they might not make it in time. If I press this and it's a trap, we all die right now, Samuel said. If I don't press it, we might all die in an hour anyway. Don't, one of the guards said behind him. We should wait. Let the experts finish their work. But Samuel wasn't sure the experts would finish in time. And something about that note, about those words. They felt real, genuine. A brother's last piece of humanity leaving a door open. Just in case. Samuel's finger hovered over the button. His entire body was tense. This was it. The moment everything either ended or continued. The moment that would define the rest of his life, however long that might be. Samuel, David said quietly. If Marcus wanted everyone to die, he wouldn't have sent me to warn you. Part of him still cares. Still wants to do the right thing? I believe that. You have to believe that too. Samuel closed his eyes, took a breath, and pressed the button. Nothing happened. No explosion. No sound. Just silence. Heavy silence that seemed to last forever. Then Samuel's radio crackled. A voice from the north wing. The device just powered down. Timer stopped. It's dead. Another voice. From the chapel. Same here. Device deactivated. It's over. Samuel opened his eyes. He was still alive. They were all still alive. Windsor Castle stood intact. The king was safe. The threat was eliminated. David collapsed against the wall, tears streaming down his face. Thank God he left it. He couldn't go through with it. Not completely. Samuel wasn't celebrating yet. Where's Marcus now? If he wanted to stop this, why didn't he come forward? Why leave the switch hidden? David wiped his eyes. Because he's scared? Ashamed? He knows what he's done. Knows he can't take it back. Even if the bombs didn't go off, he still planned this. Still broke a dozen laws? He's probably running. Hiding. Samuel helped David to his feet. We need to find him. Before he disappears completely. They climbed back through the tunnels, emerged into the early morning light. The sun was just starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Windsor Castle had survived another night, but the hunt for Marcus Morse was just beginning. Commander Price met them at the surface. Her face showed relief mixed with exhaustion. Behind her, the castle was slowly returning to normal. Guards stood down. Lights being turned off. The king had been briefed and was safe in a secure location. Good work, Harris, Price said. Then she turned to David. You saved lives tonight. That doesn't erase what you did, but it counts for something. David nodded. I just want to help find my brother, before this gets worse. Price pulled out her phone. Showed them a photo. Security footage from a train station. Timestamp from 40 minutes ago. A man in a dark jacket. Who'd pulled up? But the profile was clear enough. Marcus Morse, Price said. Caught on camera at reading station? Looks like he's running. Samuel studied the image. Marcus looked tired, defeated, not like a terrorist. More like a man carrying the weight of terrible choices. Where's he going? Samuel asked. David looked at the photo. His expression changed. Understanding dawned. I know where he is. I know exactly where. They took 2 cars. Samuel, David, and Price in the first. 4 armed guards in the second. David gave directions, north, through small villages. Past fields still dark in the pre-dawn light. Our father is buried in a cemetery near Henley-on-Thames, David explained as they drove. Marcus visited every week, even when he was at his angriest. Even when he was planning all this, he never missed a visit. You think he went there? Samuel asked. Where else would he go? He knows he's finished. Knows everyone is looking for him. He'd want to be with Dad, one last time. They reached the cemetery just as the sun fully broke over the horizon. Golden light spilled across the gravestones. Peaceful, quiet, a place for reflection and memory. Samuel spotted him immediately. A lone figure sitting at a grave near the back. Shoulders slumped, head down. Marcus Morse. "Let me talk to him first," David said. "Please, he's my brother." Price hesitated, then nodded. 2 minutes. We stay close. David walked slowly toward Marcus. Samuel and the others stayed back, but kept their hands ready, just in case. This could still go wrong in so many ways. Marcus looked up as David approached. His face showed no surprise, just acceptance, like he'd been expecting this, expecting everything to lead to this moment. "You came," Marcus said quietly, his voice rough, broken. "Of course I came," David replied. "You're my brother. I'm a monster. You know what I almost did? Almost? But you didn't. You left the kill switch. You left a way to stop it." Marcus shook his head. "That doesn't make it okay. I still built those bombs. Still broke into Windsor. Still threatened the king. Still betrayed everything Dad believed in." He looked at the gravestone, their father's name carved into granite. "I was so angry. After he died, after they didn't help, after I realized how little his 30 years of service meant to them, I wanted them to feel what I felt. Fear, helplessness, loss. But Dad wouldn't want this," David said. "You know that." "I know. That's why I couldn't go through with it. I sat in that tunnel, watching, waiting for 6 a.m., and all I could think about was what Dad would say. How disappointed he'd be. How ashamed." Marcus looked up at David, tears on his face. "I pressed the kill switch at 4:30, couldn't wait anymore. Couldn't let it happen." Even knowing what it meant for me, Samuel stepped forward, slowly, non-threatening. "Marcus Morse. I'm Guard Samuel Harris. I need you to stand up." Hands where I can see them. Marcus stood, raised his hands. No resistance. No fight left in him. "I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. You'll have a chance to explain everything," Samuel said. "In court, to a judge. Right now I need you to come with us." The other guards moved in, cuffed Marcus gently. Read him his rights. He didn't struggle, didn't argue, just kept looking at his brother, at David, like he was memorizing his face. Knowing it might be the last time they stood together as free men. "Take care of yourself," Marcus said to David. "Don't follow my path. Don't let anger eat you alive like it did me." "I won't," David promised. "But I won't abandon you either. Whatever happens, you're still my brother." They put Marcus in one of the cars, drove him back to Windsor, back to face justice, back to answer for everything he'd done and almost done. The sun was fully up now. A new day at Windsor Castle. Staff arriving for work, tourists gathering at the gates. Life continuing as if nothing had happened. But something had happened. A near tragedy. A security breach that exposed vulnerabilities. A reminder that even the most protected places could be threatened. Commander Price pulled Samuel aside before he left. "The king wants to meet you. Personally, to thank you for what you did tonight." Samuel shook his head. "I was just doing my job. You saved his life. Saved hundreds of lives. That's more than just a job. What about David? He's the one who came through the tunnels to warn us. He'll face charges for unauthorized entry. But given the circumstances, I imagine the court will be lenient. He's a hero, even if he broke the law to become one." Samuel looked back at the castle, at the walls that had stood for centuries, that would stand for centuries more. "We need to seal those tunnels properly, make sure this can never happen again." "Already on it," Price said. "Every entrance will be welded shut." Old passages will be truly sealed this time. But he knew no place was truly safe. No security was perfect. There would always be vulnerabilities. Always be threats. The job was never finished, never complete. He thought about Marcus Morse, about grief turning to anger, about anger turning to violence, about how thin the line was between feeling hurt and causing hurt. But he also thought about the kill switch, about the note, about a man who left himself away back from the edge, who couldn't bring himself to cross the final line, who chose in the end to be human rather than monster. 3 weeks later, Samuel stood in the same cemetery, same grave, but this time he was alone. He'd come to pay respects, not to the father he'd never met, but to the choice a son made, the choice to stop, to end it, to save lives even at the cost of his own freedom. Marcus Morse was in prison now, awaiting trial. The charges were serious. He'd spend years behind bars, maybe decades, but he was alive, and so was everyone else. That had to count for something. Samuel placed a small stone on the grave, a sign of respect, an acknowledgement of the complicated truth, that people weren't simply good or evil. They were both, fighting internal battles no one else could see. He walked back to his car, back to Windsor, back to his post. The castle still needed protecting, still needed guards who cared, who paid attention, who trusted their instincts when something felt wrong. Samuel had been right that night. Something was different. Something was wrong, and he'd acted on it. Saved a kingdom, stopped a tragedy. But more than that, he'd helped a broken man remember who he really was. Helped him choose redemption over revenge. Helped him honor his father's memory the right way. As Samuel drove through the castle gates, the morning sun reflected off the ancient stones. Windsor stood proud, unbroken, safe, and Samuel knew that tonight. And every night after, he'd walk his patrol with the same dedication, the same attention, the same instinct for when something wasn't quite right, because that's what guards did. They watched. They protected. They stood between danger and the innocent. And sometimes, if they were lucky, they saved more than just lives. They saved souls.